So when it comes to selecting your new HRIS or your new HR system, is these things that is absolute paramount. I quite often joke to people that Bitcoin's going to come and go, AI is going to come and go and they're all going to become business as usual. But the one thing that never disappears across the rest of our lives is the importance of cybersecurity and security around your system. So this is why we put it number 2 in the list of things to look at for your HR training. If you're interested in this kind of content, we very much focus on how organizations can quickly adopt technology of today in the matter of days and weeks, not the historically way of doing it in months and years. Just subscribe here and you'll get more content like this. But security may sound like a very, very obvious thing to be talking about, but you have to be addressing the obvious because it's not about today, it's about what's going on, what's going to be happening going forward. And the power of SaaS-based models is something that helps you address basically it helps your provider address the situation for you in many shapes and forms, but they don't have the full responsibility, which we'll talk about in a minute. So there are different levels to security. It's what's built into the HR technology, and that's what's going to be provided by your SaaS provider. It's the security in your overall networks and systems that sits on your side, but also the practices and behaviors of your organization. So you'll be looking for a SaaS provider that actually helps you focus on these areas. So even though they're providing the kind of the security for their HR technology on their systems that they're running on a SaaS model for you, the reality is you want them to be helping you with as much security around your networks and systems as they can, but also encouraging the right practices and behaviors for your employees and your leadership across the organization. Because as I said, and I'll keep saying this, the security issue is the one thing that's never going to go away in our lifetimes. Cybersecurity is going to be this ongoing beast that's going to evolve with the technologies we're talking about, with threats perpetually. But the good thing about security in your HRIS or your HR systems is that it's kind of a lot easier than it's ever been before. The old models where all the responsibility sat on you hosting this technology and you providing the access and the security of the access and you having to deal with the security of access to the servers, etc. That's all gone with SaaS models. They're certainly going to recommend behaviors for your employers and I think for your employees. And I think that's a key thing to be looking for, as I said a minute ago. You want to be looking for them to help you with security. But the bulk of the security is going to be built into their system. Hosting is addressed between them and their cloud provider. Typically they'll have used AWS or Google Cloud or someone else like that to be their host, so they're not actually worrying about that. But again, they're passing all that responsibility to someone who purely specializes in controlling and monitoring that centrally. You want data to be encrypted, and again, you want this to be the same across all devices, no matter how people are accessing their information or transacting the HR systems. But again, SaaS security's got many, many benefits. And it doesn't mean that you get no responsibilities, which we'll talk about in a minute, but things like backup are addressed. Security is addressed and controlled across all of their customers. But the backup issues addressed, the availability, the uptime, disaster recovery, that's all addressed. Their central security of access to their systems is addressed. And this is all kept up to date as there are more and more threats coming in every minute or every day, certainly, across every single network. The ability for them to do that centrally takes one major stress away from your organization. You want to understand what they're doing, and it's fascinating to understand it. So I would take some time just to ask the right questions. In fact, you're probably going to be highly irresponsible if you don't ask these questions. But it just out of sheer interest, you assume they've done it, but find out what they're doing, find out what their policies are. And then, of course, there's contractual obligations. You're not just, assuming they're doing it. They're actually underwriting the fact that they're going to be maintaining security of data, maintaining security of access. And again, personal data and business data. But because that's part of their core business, they're doing it day in, day out. And you hope you never fall back on the contractual obligation, but it's there if you need it. And that's what they're signing up for. So, technically, they're dealing with many things. Contractually and legally, they're doing many things. And, we try and simplify down to this, at an access level, at the device level, that's something you need to be focusing on. You need to be ensuring best practices across your organization, across all devices. The connection between you and the SaaS provider, that is up to your internet provider mainly, but your access to that and how people get access to that connection is something that you want to be responsible for. Then when it comes to cloud hosting and the actual software itself, that is the divide that's 100% the responsibility of the SaaS provider. So hopefully this diagram makes it super simple, but many of the major risks that you would have previously had to deal with, by hosting it yourself, have been removed by the value of the SaaS model. So next up, as you look at your HRIS and your HR system, we're going to look at ease of setup. This is psychologically probably one of the biggest problems people have, making the decision that they're going to look for a new system because they're worried about the amount of work, the amount of effort it's going to take. So that's what we're going to address in the next video.